Hello, BookTube. Today I'm reviewing the Illearth War, which is not the size of this book. As I explained in the previous video, I'm reading through the trilogy of the First Chronicles of Thomas Covenant, the Unbeliever, which are all collected in this one book. And right now I'm on the second book, the Illearth War. So as you can see my progress by bookmark, the next book in this trilogy would be The Power That Preserves. So I had heard this would be the book that improves things, and that this is like where it really starts getting good. But I don't think I would feel that way, although it does change a lot. So before I begin, I would like to repeat the warning I had at the beginning of the first one. It's a very dark series, and has a lot of dark content, like the same warning as the last book. It has a lot of dark content in it. But in particular for this book, so there was an issue I brought up in the first one that I didn't want to spoil it, but it's arguably not treated well. I thought it was fine in the first book. But in the second book, I think it actually does get a lot worse, and if you're sensitive to the treatment of that issue, then I would not read this book. Anyway, I can't tell you what it is because it's a spoiler, but let me go on with the review. So, the second book is very different from the first book, and it definitely does not suffer from middle book syndrome. You know, that's when you call it the middle book of a trilogy simply establishes things that are going to happen in the next book. Plenty of things happen in this book. In fact, the premise of it is vastly different from what I thought it was going to be. There's a big change that happens, and it's very significant from the world and the characters. So the readers of the first book have that to look forward to in the second one. I think the characters, they're not as good as they should be. There's a lot of ones that are kind of flat or bland, but they've definitely gotten better. And there's one character in particular, he's my favorite in this book, and he's a really interesting character, and he's actually the main focus. The story is told from his point of view in the middle of the book, and which actually raises more questions about whether or not the world that Thomas Covenant is in is real or not. I mean, it seems to imply that it is real because you have a person whose point of view is being given, but I've heard that it actually doesn't really get more confirmed that's real until the second trilogy. But in the first trilogy, yeah, it seems actually that issue is being, if not resolved, it's definitely seeming like Thomas Covenant is starting to realize maybe the land could be real. But he has not accepted it yet, certainly. The writing, as I mentioned before in the previous review, it's beautiful. There's even more obscure, there's other really obscure words used in this book. I also did not find an overuse of the word clenched. I don't remember any instance of the word clenched being used because that was a complaint I remember being brought up about the series. It's not really there at all. But the writing is very beautiful. I learned a lot more words I didn't know. And I personally appreciate the kind of writing, but it's definitely not for everyone. I can understand if it's not your style. I'm the sort of person who, not only do I like learning new words, so if I had to look up a word that's just interesting to me, but I can usually tell what a word means by context and other words around it. But not everyone can do that, and the vocabulary is very obscure and arcane, and it's not for everyone's taste. However, the pace in this book is very, very slow, and I actually did not like it, which is strange, because normally, I've said this before, I like slow-paced books. I like fast-paced books as well, but I also appreciate slow-paced books. But this one, not really, because the slow pace, it's not... You see, the trouble is the world building and the character development in the series is not that great. I mean, apart from Thomas Covenant himself, who's an interesting character, a very flawed character, but an interesting character in that regard, the other characters are, as I said before, in general flat, even though they've gotten better, and the world is just... It's basically a Tolkien Lord of the Rings world. It's deliberately so, because the author wants to do it in a different way. But as a result, if you have a really slow-moving book, and you spend all that time with the world building and character development, but it's not very good world building or very remarkable character development for the most part, then it kind of feels like wasted space. So it's up to the second half of the book, it's very slow moving. Now, another thing, so this is what really brings down the book to me. If it had not been for this, I probably would definitely have rated it higher than the first book, because it improves in a lot of ways, but in this way, well, other than the pace, it gets a lot worse. So the sensitive issue thing, as I said before, that gets treated a lot worse in this book. But there's this relationship Thomas Covenant has with a side character that I won't explain in detail for spoilers, but it is a really, terribly written relationship, and there's a scene in this book that might be my least favorite I've ever read, ever, and that, really brought down the book. I'm not going to say it ruined the book, because overall it was enjoyable enough, but that scene really, I was thinking before I was reading, okay, this could be a 3.5, 4 star, something like that, definitely improvement. But that scene really just sank my score in my mind, and so I can't really rate it higher than the original one. And the side characters in general, as I mentioned already, so the first book, they're not very well developed at all. They're kind of just there, and it's hard to feel much more from them just seeing as names, and they're just people to die or whatever. They're better than they were in the previous book, but they're not great. There's 2 or 3 more characters that are actually fairly decently done, whereas in the previous book, there's really only like the main characters decently done. In the end, I give this book a 3 out of 5 stars, the same rating as the previous book, but it improved definitely in many aspects, but it also got worse in other aspects. Anyway, I will be continuing this book, but I was thinking in the future, I'm possibly going to start alternating between reading fiction and nonfiction books, because I haven't read nonfiction books in a long time. In any case, thank you guys for listening. Make sure to please the YouTube algorithm gods by leaving me a like, commenting, and subscribing, and have a nice day.